Thanks for being here, everybody. Was here a year ago, just as Founders was getting going, and we've it's been a lot of progress since then. And so happy to be back and doing a presentation this time and able to go through kind of some of the progress we made, some of the new discoveries we've made, and talk about kind of what we've got coming up in the future as well. So Antino project, we're a gold exploration property in Suriname. Suriname's in the Guyana Shield, which is the northeastern corner of South America. We've got a 200 square kilometer, 20,000 hectare land package in the southeast portion of the country. And that's exploitation concessions that give us the ability to do really any mineral exploration or work on the property that we want to going forward. We're building off of a pretty impressive kind of historical data set that's been compiled and worked through 32,000 meters of historic drilling, but also a long history of mining, over 500,000 ounces of historic production, which, when you take into account the 20 to 30% typical recovery that artisanal miners see in this area, right away points to 2 million ounces plus that have been moved on the property, much of which is actually still in the tailings, really. And we have some pretty impressive results from that stuff as well. Ourselves, we got going just in the end of June last year, so we're a little less than a year since we started drilling. We own 2 of our own diamond drill rigs, and we've had we had 17 intercepts over 100 gram meter products. We're now 4 over 400 gram meters, and we've had a few in between. So we're in the very fortunate position of finding quite a lot of gold with our drilling. We did 10,000 meters of drilling last year. We're about 15,000 now into a 30,000 meter program this year. We also have some upcoming geophysical surveys, including airborne EM, and a number of other things to kind of further grow the exploration pipeline outside of the discoveries we've recently made and the areas that we're working right now. So another couple of new things, just talking about the Founders Metals team. We've recently added a couple of new people to management. So Katie McKenzie recently joined Founders as VP of Corporate Development and comes from Skeena and a lot of experience in the space, and we're really happy to have her on board, as well as Natalie Singer, who kind of comes in and brings that in-house modeling side of things to our team and has a lot of experience in the gold space, coming from Tudor, but also spent a lot of time working on the Bruce Jack deposit and similarly high-grade mineralization to what we have at Antino. Looking at a corporate snapshot, we've had a pretty good track record here since last year. We got started in March. We did a 20-cent concurrent financing with closing the deal on the property. We followed that up with a strategic investment from Dynamic Funds at 40 cents. At that point, with no warrant. And November did a bought deal with Bank of Montreal at 80 cents. And then just recently, we closed a $10 million private placement at $1.60. So it's not intentional, but the double every time is nice to see. Shares outstanding, 69 million shares out. Working capital, a little over $12 million right now with the recent raise. And that puts us in a position to basically fund exploration and the work expenditure straight through to stage 2 of our option. And I'll get into the details of that, but it takes us to a 70% ownership position and gives us a lot of runway. So we're looking at, I'd say, upwards of another 30,000 meters from this point this year. And the project's just going to kind of continue to grow. We additionally have almost 9 million warrants outstanding, and that represents another $5 million that would come in by March when those expire. They're very deep in the money too. In terms of the area, this is a pretty common story for the jurisdiction, but Guyana Shield, continental drift basically leads to Guyana Shield and West Africa being the same geology. And what a lot of people are familiar with is the Birmingham Shield in West Africa and all the gold that's been discovered there. Not as many people know about Guyana or the Guyana Shield, and there really is a ton of opportunity there. The big discoveries or the big things recently with Reunion Gold's Oko West project, G2 as well, it's had some pretty recent M&A action. It's an exciting jurisdiction. I think there's going to be a really big pipeline of future gold projects come out of this area, and a lot of them are many millions of ounces. So some pretty big opportunity. In terms of our property and infrastructure, we've been really fortunate in that we've come into a lot of existing infrastructure. Where we are, we're We're about a 45-minute flight from the capital city of Paramaribo. We've got a 1.3-kilometer airstrip at our main camp. The camp itself we also inherited, so it saved us quite a lot of money and certainly helped us with the pace of getting things rolling. The airstrip's commercially serviced, so we're able to get commercial flights in and out, and it works really well with the crew changes and things. River access is bargeable river right to site. That provides access for everything on the heavy equipment front and any future development scenario too. It's kind of the most immediate access to getting big things to site. On the property, there's road access to all of the major target areas, and we're situated right on the French Guyana border, about 10 kilometers away from the Yao gold deposit as well. So we're also working in an area that has had some big discoveries and has had a lot of historic mining. I also mentioned the Yao deposit too, because the fellow did his PhD on that deposit and basically the same rocks that we're in. He published a couple of papers on it a couple of years ago, and he's our chief geologist and has been pretty much since the start. This helped a lot with our understanding of the deposit and moving things forward quickly. In terms of, I'll get into details on, what we've discovered at Upper Antino and some of the grades that we've seen with those discoveries. But the big thing that I really want to focus on too is that at Upper Antino, we've got a lot of fantastic mineralization and still a lot of room to explore and grow there. But it represents only a very, very small portion of a much larger property, covering what I think is some of the most prospective ground in the Guyana Shield. Right now, we have 2 drills operating in Upper Antino. We've got a third one on the way. They'll be heading to Boise, which is close to the center of the property, about 6 kilometers away from where we're operating right now. So you think about a jurisdiction like Timmins or any of the big camps out there where you're looking at orogenic gold and these greenstone belts, and I think that kind of 6 kilometer away spacing really speaks to the potential scale for some pretty big things here, and number of really impressive targets from the historic work, but also the work that we've done ourselves. We've generated quite a number of big targets out and away from the historic discoveries or historic mineralization, and we're going to see a lot of that get looked at or explored this year. A big part of the go forward now is we have a team to actually branch out away from things and start building that pipeline further afield things as we continue to grow the existing targets or discoveries. So zooming in on Upper Antino, which is just that small kind of, if I go back, it's the top left-hand corner there of the property area. And what we see is we've got a lot of historic mining at Upper Antino. Right now, we're about 700 meters along a 1,200 meter trend of historical pits, artisanal pit workings, as well as historical auger samples. And so in the main Froyo trend, we're working along that, and we continue to drill and expand to the northwest, and we'll also be testing to the south as well. But the most recent kind of big discovery, and I'd say the big update one, is actually a cross strike, about 800 meters to the northeast is the donut target. It's not the greatest name for a target, so if you're going to call something donut, you want to make sure you find a little bit of gold there. We fortunately have done so. We're following up on historic auger samples, some historic drilling, and we're really targeting low-grade bulk tonnage, intrusion-hosted mineralization. That historic stuff, 40 meters, 1.5, that was really what we were after. We did intercept some things like that, but it got really exciting for us here where we came from the east drilling west, came through the intrusion and into the main shear. And when we did that, we came into first 45 meters at 2 grams, followed up by 19 meters of 14 grams, which is not so low grade. Very recently, we just put out another press release kind of updating on the donut work, or our phase 1 of donut drilling. We reported another 8 meters of 6.6 grams per ton along strike from those 2 big hits, and as well as discovering another kind of sub-parallel shear zone to that with upwards of 200 meters of strike so far from 4 holes where we've hit it, widths, mineralization up to 22 meters, and really a lot to follow up there and a lot to grow on. And this is, not a long section, this is a cross section. And so that's 800 meters apart. Basically the donut structure and Froyo wind up being shear zones on the limbs of a much larger fold. So the core of that fold, or the hinge, winds up being right in the middle, and there's been very little exploration work done there. And we've got some upcoming drilling in that part of the property. Yeah, looking forward to those results. It's an area that our team is very excited about. Kind of next, and just to bounce back to give you the where are we? Kind of just going to jump down to Boise. That's the next thing coming up for us. We've got a drill. Our third rig is almost to site. A couple weeks from now, we'll be starting a drill down at Boise. I have a lot of people are very excited about results coming out of here. I've done a lot of property tours recently, and this winds up being people's favorite project overall. And I think that's really because of the scale potential that it represents. So intrusion-hosted target, the intrusive rocks have been uncovered by artisanal mining. So these exposures didn't exist when past explorers were there, and it wasn't really what they were targeting either. So got a lot of upside there. We've done some of our own trench work and channel sampling. We've 11 meters of 2.4 with a meter of 113 grams per ton on top of that. And then another channel of our own with 22 meters of 4 grams. But there's also some historic intervals in the 19 meters of 20 grams kind of thing. So some really fantastic intervals down there, and it speaks to potential real scale. And even when you're there, you have that sense of being in what could be an open pit type project. And so we're looking forward to getting down there, testing the strike extent of that intrusion hosted mineralization, and really defining the scale of this and looking at it as a bulk tonnage target with some high grade mineralization in high strain zones or along the margins of these intrusions as well. Coming back to the option piece and progress. With our option agreement, we've now completed the work commitment for stage 1, and we'll be completing the exercise of stage 1 here in the next little while. With the financing we've just completed, we're now fully funded to come through stage 2, especially with the warrant money coming in. That sees us through stage 2 of the option and to 70% ownership in the property. So we've got a lot of runway ahead of us. In terms of upcoming catalysts, really, we've submitted metallurgical samples, so we'll have some results coming up for that work, for the Froyo zone in Upper Antino, as well as some of the tailings that we have, where we have grades up to 9 grams per ton in our tails, average grades in some areas over several dozen samples of 3 grams per ton. After that, drilling for us, we've got 2 to 3 week turnaround time on assays. So with the financing behind us, we'll be returning to a pace that we've maintained for quite some time, and that's every 2 to 3 weeks getting drill results out to people and keeping people just regularly updated on the progress of operations on the property. With the third rig coming in, that pace should increase even more, and we'll have news coming in from a number of different areas on the property. So there'll be a lot there. We're also looking to expand concessions around us, and hope to have some news on that front as well in the not too distant future. Maybe I'll leave it there, and if there's any questions.
The government strategy or government situation. Geez, I feel important now. What's the government like? Is there 2 questions really? You mentioned artisanal mining, so you had to deal with the artisanal miners presumably. And what's the government's view in terms of mining generally, open pit in particular?
So very mining friendly jurisdiction. In terms of the government's view on mining, gold mining represents an enormous portion of their export or their economy in general. So both Rosebel and Marion, so Marion's the Newmont mine, got going in 2016, full production in 2019. That's open pit operation. Rosebel is an open pit operation that's been running for, I think, close to 20 years now. So no issues with open pit mining in the country. As far as the government itself, also, pro mining, but also, pro our development or our work in the interior specifically. I met with the president cabinet just a couple of months ago, and that conversation was largely about, how can we work together on, building more in the interior and kind of adding to the base out there. We've got a partnership established for health clinic, police station on site at our main camp with the government. So really supportive overall has been our experience. All right. Yeah. Thanks very much.